Into the Fold is a podcast on mental health issues, produced by the Hogg Foundation for Mental Health. I'm your host, Ike Evans.
This is really, really important, and I think that that the question is a good one and is telling that we think about the medical transition. And I guess the first thing I want to say is to help families, young people and families, just back up and recognize that the medical transition is just one piece of a broader social transition that I think is really the heart of the matter for young people, which is how do we help them adjust their understanding of themselves, the way they live in the world, to who they feel they are. And that is like just fundamental to healthy adolescent development, figuring out who you are, being supported in who you want to be and who you want to become. And so the big picture is how do we support the social gender transition and support young people to figure that out and explore it. And I think what's really interesting right now about, for example, the explosion of the understanding of non-binary is that young people are helping us realize that you don't have to be one or the other, but you can figure it out. You can actually be in a space that's between, and that's okay. And we're creating pathways for that for young people. Young people are creating it for themselves. But with respect to the medical transition, I mean, I think that is a sort of farther along in a social transition, recognizing a desire for, changing, intervening in the processes of puberty, intervening in the way that we live in our bodies in the world. And I think that one of the things that's concerned me in the last few years is the way that this is not a rash decision that anyone would come to, including medical personnel. So I think the idea that somehow we throw medication at gender dysphoria is really just not. I mean, the folks who specialize this in medicine will tell you, this is not something that is done lightly. It is not just a regular everyday thing. And they work very carefully with young people and their families to assess what's best. At a really fundamental level, just reminding people that this is the intersection of things that are really complicated, and that we as a culture, I think in particularly the United States, US culture, but in the West maybe in general, but we have our own special version of it in the United States, which is we are really conflicted and anxious about adolescence, number one, and about sexuality, number two. Like we think, we all want to be young, unless we're adolescents, then we want to be old. But we beat up on, the rotten teenager is like a trope, right? I mean, we don't think of adolescence. What we know from the science of adolescence is that it's this extraordinary, it's the second amazing time of neurocognitive brain development and social development and change. It's like the period of most potential for young people. It's like the unbelievable possibility that is released during adolescence for everyone. And yet we sort of have those darn kids. I've had parents literally say, like, can we put them in suspended animation, and can I wake up when they're in their 20s? Because it's going to be so bad to have a teenager. And just say like, no, don't think of it that way. The teenagers are so amazing. So we have this like love-hate relationship with the adolescents. The thing about adolescence is that it is really this period of figuring out who you are. And, in our culture, and it is true about development, we call it individuation, but like becoming your own person. A colleague and I really wanted to design a study where we would follow kids over time and actually not just have a cross-sectional or a one-time look at their health and well-being, but follow kids over a period of 3 to 4 years and really try to understand from a developmental perspective, what does it mean to be an LGBTQ young person? So we designed this study in 3 US cities, one on the West Coast, one in the Southeast, and one in the Northeast. The design was to we recruited 1,300 youth in those 3 cities and followed them for 3 years. I mean, frankly, honestly, we were blown away ourselves by our results, that we suspected that there would be a link between feeling good about yourself and having self-confidence. But frankly, I was shocked at how strong the effect is. First of all, not only half of the trans and gender diverse youth said that they had a name that was different than the one they were given. So one important thing is not everybody who has is on the gender diverse spectrum wants a different name. So that's an important thing. But among the kids who said that they wanted a different name, the more context that they were able to use that name was so dramatically linked to their mental health and well-being. We've now had several studies that follow up on sort of the nuance of that. But essentially, the young people who were able to use their chosen name in all of those settings compared to the ones that could use them in none had dramatically like 70% less risk for suicidal thoughts and behaviors.